today. I would like to introduce our Mistress of Ceremonies for the program, our past unit president and past district president, Kim Dixon.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today to celebrate 100 years of history of Unit 34. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stay standing for our national anthem, which will now be sung by Junior Auxiliary Member Mackenzie Bannicky, and she will be accompanied by Auxiliary Member and her grandmother, Sherry Langfritz. Come over here. Ready?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. I would like to do introductions now of our special guests. American Legion Auxiliary National President Nicole Clapp, which I'm sure most of you have met already because she's been around. Department President Kelly Elliott. Department Vice President Doris Jackson. And Ann, I didn't realize you were coming, but our national, our NEC, Ann Crawford. 5th District President Rosemary Lancaster. And other members of 5th District that are here, if you want to go ahead and stand, it's probably pretty much close to everybody. Our Department Commander, Jim Kessler. Department Vice Commander, Darren Alderson. 34 Post Commander, Brad Carlson. And if you are a member of the Oskaloosa Honor Guard, please stand and be recognized. We really appreciate what you do. Our Unit President, Kathy Harding. Other Unit 34 members, if you would rise to be recognized.
Thank you and welcome to our open house today. We're very glad to have you here. Have you ever heard of Sammy's Mother's Club? The women of Oskaloosa have always held patriotism and Americanism close to their hearts. Mothers who lost one or more sons in World War I organized the first women's patriotic organization in Mahaska County called Sammy's Mothers Club in 1917. A photo on display shows a group standing in front of the City Hall, and many of those same members later joined Unit 34 Auxillary. At the first National Legion Convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in November of 1919, veterans voted to form a new organization of wives, sisters, and daughters. These women would serve the Legion in peace as they had in war, caring for hospitalized veterans and promoting Americanism. Unit 34 American Legion Auxiliary received its charter April 28, 1922, signed by Ethel Pennington, our first unit president. The charter was signed by National American Legion Auxiliary President Edith Irene Hobart in 1922 by our department president, Mrs. Mary McCrae, who later became our fourth national president. American Legion Auxiliary members abide by all the rules of the organization, promote programs and goals set by the national headquarters. Here's a little known fact. Our post name is Harry Anderson. The post charter left out the middle initial L. Well, it was just too complicated to legally change at the time per their attorney. So therefore, our unit chapter also states Post Harry Anderson. The first state convention was held in May of 1921 at Sioux City. Officers were elected and a constitution was adopted. Mrs. Donald McCrae of Council Bluffs was elected our first department president. Here's another known little patriotic fact. Mahaska County veterans of World War I also formed a group called Veterans of World War I Ladies Auxiliary, Barracks number 926. Our display table has several items, including 2 caps to show you. I also spoke with Roger Norfolk, the American Legion Iowa 100th Anniversary Department Chairman, who said this organization was chartered in 1958 and dissolved in 1997. Have you ever heard of the auxiliary cradle roll? This was created for the babies born of World War I veterans and later became known as junior members. In 1966, Helen Carlson served as Unit 34 president and was the first woman to be a member of both the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary. In 1967, the Auxiliary and the Legion sponsored the Kelly Miller Brothers Circus for children of Oskaloosa, with over 100 entertainers who provide 2 shows at the fairgrounds. In the beginning, our dues were minimal. In 1970, we had 201 paid members with senior member dues of $3.50. Today, we currently have 263, plus 1 more that was recruited last night, and we're lacking just 8 members of meeting our goal. Our senior dues are now $25. In 1988, Department of Iowa's 68th Annual Convention was held in Des Moines, and attending was our honorary National Junior President, Nicole Potstian, who is currently serving as our National American Legion Auxiliary President, Nicole Clapp. At that time, Oskaloosa had 306 members. In 1997, Jane Cox organized the Spirit of 34 drill team, with members participating in area parades and winning first place in their class at the Department of Iowa Convention competition. A picture of the first members is also located over here on our history table. By the way, they won first place and they also won $1,000. In February of 1998, a brick planter was constructed around the flagpole in front of the Legion building as part of a legislative program to mark the place of distinction and support of the flag amendment, and dedicated to veterans of Post 34 by members of the unit auxiliary. With weather deterioration, however, this has since been removed. Also in December of 1998, the junior auxiliary members presented a Christmas program and a flag to a local facility where 12 veterans reside. Auxiliary members spent countless hours at the Knoxville VA hospital, helping in the clothing room, bingo, Christmas distribution, picnics, baking hundreds and hundreds of cookies, making lap robes, donating clothing, popcorn, personal hygiene products, etc. Serving as the department VA representative was Marge Black. This facility was closed in 2009, and veterans were transferred to Des Moines VA. The Oskaloosa unit is unique to have 11 5th District Auxiliary presidents. Starting in 1928, Mrs. A.M. Delano, Mrs. Charles McCain, Mrs. Raymond Quist, Mrs. Lou Pearson, who remained a member at the age of 100, Jean Edwards, Marge McClellan England, Marge Black, Diana Shattuck, Kim Dixon, Kathy Harding, and Rosemary Lancaster. Our unit had the distinction of one department president. We have an organized junior auxiliary for young girls at the age of 18 and sponsor members to attend junior camp where they learn all about our Americanism and programs. We sponsor 2 young ladies to attend ALA Girls State where they learn about our government system. In 2015, McKenna Little was selected to attend Girls Nation in Washington, D.C. and serve as an Iowa Girls Nation Senator. As stated in the amended Articles of Incorporation, we, the members of the American Legion Auxiliary, Harry Anderson, Post 34, shall be perpetual in our beliefs and programs for generations to come. We hope you enjoy going back to the future, looking through our scrapbooks and memories, and enjoy the taste of our unit history. Take time to view our photo gallery in the hallway of our unit presidents. God bless America, and thank you for coming.
Okay, it is my job now to tell you about a couple of the special accomplishments of our unit. The first was a flagpole planter at the Law Center that was a junior auxiliary project. And first off, I wanted to tell you that sponsors of that flagpole were Musco Dickinson Company, Ideal Ready Mix, Dennis Shankster, Oskaloosa City Council, and Spade, White, and Anderson. So as stated before, this was a junior auxiliary project of Unit 34. It came about one night when one of our youngest juniors at the time innocently asked, no good answer for her. She went and waited outside the Law Center and politely he had no these young sued. It's to get permission, which was granted in November of 2002, pending any routine checks for possible utilities at the marked spot. Once approval was official, the enthusiastic group of young ladies hit the ground running. It must have been really hard to say no to them, because before we knew it, we had received donations, a flagpole, lighting, and contractors to donate their time to set the pole and build the planter. After the flagpole was set, the planter was built around it. This was a lesson in patience for the mason, whom you probably figured out was Dennis Shankster, as he made sure that every junior girl that was there, and their leader, to put at least one brick in that planter. So it was really a special for them to do that. We then worked on preparing for the dedication. 2 letters were written, one to Congressman Boswell asking him to be present and speak, and the other was to Senator Tom Harkin asking him to have 2 flags flown over the Capitol. One is a ceremonial flag and one to honor the National Guard 3654th Detachment from Oskaloosa, which were deployed at the time. And as you know, they're deployed again now. The flag was presented to them upon their return. On September 6, 2009, to all past, present, and future veterans who have and will offer lives so that justice, freedom, and democracy will prevail in America. The other project was the Mahaska County Freedom Rock. We had many sponsors of that project. The American Legion Auxiliary, Sons of the American Legion Riders, VFW and their auxiliary, Daughters of the American Revolution, Mahaska County Conservation Board, Friends of Mahaska County Conservation, Mahaska County Supervisors, the City of Oskaloosa and Mayor Creutzfeld, Ben Shin Trucking, Bill and Ray's, John Deere Van Wall, Allied Gas, DeBryan Electric, Musco, Clow Valve, Garden Associates, Ideal Ready Mix, Skyline, Carl Drost, Clay Grace and his crew, and Tom Stone. So Mahaska County Freedom Rock Project is the largest community project undertaken by Unit 34. It all began at a meeting in January of 2014 when Kathy Harding, when the American Legion Auxillary Unit 34 voted on a motion by Kathy Harding to pursue the possibility of bringing a Freedom Rock to Mahaska County. We discovered that interest was high, so the unit sent the $1,000 application fee. Sorensen Studios approved the application, and Mahaska County was placed on the list for painting in 2019. Let the never-ending job of fundraising begin. We did vendor shows, poker runs, a quilt raffle, sold bricks that we placed at the site. Once we got the fundraising rolling, we began to search for a rock worthy of the title of Freedom Rock. After several weeks of searching, I got a phone call from Trevor Wells, who was then a deputy for Mahaska County, and he was very excited to tell me that he was positive he had found the perfect rock. I contacted the owner, which happened to be Ben Shin Trucking. I was informed that the president of that company was a veteran, and they were more than honored to donate that rock and to provide the transportation that would be needed to get it to the site. Now all we needed was a forever home for that massive rock. After much searching, the Mahaska County Conservation Board offered us a spot at Caldwell Park, which was donated to the Conservation Board by Harold T. Caldwell. We immediately accepted and were delighted to later find out that Mr. Caldwell was a retired colonel and fought in World War II. We felt that that was just kismet, that we accepted that and then found out that he was a veteran later. In May of 2015, a concrete pad was poured, and in July of 2015, the rock was moved from Eddyville to its home at Caldwell Park. Once the rock was in place, I called Bubba Sorensen and jokingly said, "Hey, we're ready." And he kind of laughed and he said, "Yeah, I'll let you know." So on October 26th of that same year, I got a phone call from him telling me he would be here on November 3rd. So needless to say, I went into a panic. I had a whole week to get everything ready that he needed before he got here. Hotel room, a tent to cover the rock, heaters, propane, electricity. Since the biggest challenge for us was going to be keeping that rock at a constant temperature so that the paint would dry. If that wasn't stressful enough, my boss sprung a work trip to Arizona on me, so I was going to be gone. Thank heavens to my wonderful husband, who checked on the rock night and day to make sure the temperature stayed constant. I joked with him on the phone while I was gone that it must be like having an infant around again. And he said at least when we had a small child, he could walk across the hall and check on her. This required getting dressed and driving clear across town. So the painting of the rock was completed November 12, 2015, 4 years early. In 2016, we poured more concrete, laid the fundraising bricks, put 4 benches around the rock, installed 3 flagpoles and lighting. On September 11th of 2016, we had a flag raising ceremony. Further improvements to the rock were then put on hold due to the construction of the Mahaska County Environmental Learning Center. Since completion of the Learning Center, we have added a permanent sidewalk, a storyboard which explains the meaning behind the artwork, granite pillars with bronze inlays which honor the 5 branches of service, and the National Guard inlay which honors the detachment in Oskaloosa that has been deployed several times and currently is. We're hoping to finalize the project completely this year with some additional landscaping. The project was started by Unit 34, but we know that the Freedom Rock would not have been possible without the help of the other community groups, businesses, and individuals that I have already mentioned. This truly was a community project. And as I was telling Nicole while we were visiting, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that some of you may or may not know that Carl Drost was a huge benefactor to the Freedom Rock. If I needed anything, I called him up, and miraculously it appeared, and we had it. And he jokingly told me, just call me Uncle Carl. So if you do see Carl, thank him I did have a certificate for him today, but if you do see him, thank him for his commitment to that. If you haven't seen the Freedom Rock in person, take time to stop by as you head home. It's located on Highway 92 east of Oskaloosa, about a half mile on the south side of the road. And there's pictures and things back there of the Freedom Rock and the Planner Project, if you'd like to look at those if you haven't already. So at this point, we will so now I have Darren Alderson would like to say a couple words.
Is he still here?
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Auxillary. Round of applause for the Auxillary for putting this on today. This takes a lot of work, so thank you. I did ask for just a couple minutes because we didn't do our Centennial celebration like we normally do on the Legion birthday. We wanted to let the Auxillary have the limelight since they're a very instrumental part of what Post 34 is. We do a lot of things together. The SAL does a lot of stuff with us, and our Legion Riders. So it's truly a family event, and I hope everybody appreciates that. And unfortunately, they're monumental years. So we have 20-year members that this year is Danny Bridges, Tom Goffin, and Leon Richardson. They served 25 consecutive years into the American Legion. So next memorial or monumental years of service is 50. I can honestly say I'm at least 50 years old now. So, and these members here have been members as long as I've been alive, and that's Darrell Cox, John Crumley, and Calvin Noller. So, and then we get 75 years. Anybody close? So, Paul Evelyn served in World War II. He is a 75-year member. And we have, I think, at least 6 members in our post that have 75 years or more. Our longest current serving member in the American Legion Post 34 is at 77 years, and that is Joseph Clemens, and he resides in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm hoping this year at National Convention I can sneak in out there and see him. So I do appreciate everything that Unit 34 has done. I've learned a lot from the I can't say ladies anymore. I've been schooled on that by Diane. It's auxiliary members because they're not all ladies anymore. So I do appreciate their guidance, their wisdom, and they keep me in line a lot of the times because I do stray off target sometimes. So I do appreciate their support, and I look forward to the future because we do have some bright stars coming up into the American Legion here in the near future. So thank you very much, and Nicole, thank you for coming to Post 34, and welcome. Thank you.
Kelly? Yes. Would you like to say a few words? Thank you, Kim. Good afternoon, everyone. What a momentous occasion this is, isn't it? Happy birthday, American Legion Auxiliary. 100 years. That's a long time. That's a legacy that we need to be proud of. My theme the past 2 years have been 100 years of service, not self. And that's what the Auxiliary is all about, is service. It's not about ourselves. It's about what we can do for our veterans, what we can do for our communities, and what we do for our children and youth. We have a lot of programs that we help with and things that we do. As far as our military goes, with the sending care packages to our military, and I'm sure you've been doing that with the troops that are over there right now. Making lap robes, preparing meals, making quilts for Quilts of Valor, making masks this last year. That's been a big thing with these new things that we have for our wardrobe, and many, many, many more things that we do. We are there for our military for send-off ceremonies and to welcome them home. We want to make sure that they all know that we appreciate them. We volunteer in our VA facilities, making sure our veterans get the care they deserve. And we help with legislature by writing our senators and our representatives, giving our support to the bills that help our veterans. For 100 years, we have distributed poppies in remembrance of our veterans. I am so honored to be a part of this wonderful organization. It's the world's largest patriotic organization. And God has blessed us with so many giving, talented, and selfless members. We need to make sure that we are here well into the future and continue the legacy that those ladies started 100 years ago. Continue to grow and don't be afraid of change. This past year has taught us change and being versatile are important to continue our mission. Thank you for being here for our veterans and your service to our wonderful American Legion family. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Randy has a gift for you. Oh. How did you know? Oh. Okay, thank you so much. I collect soft ones.
Yes, she does. Commander Kessler, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Kathy. Madam President Nicole, Kelly, Diana, my text partner, where's your hat? Okay. I just bring you greetings from the Department of Isle of the American Legion. It's an honor to be here today to speak to you people, to you ladies, gentlemen, community members, or auxiliary. It's great to be here. I just have a few brief things I'd like to say, and as I sit here and listen, I think about the impact you ladies, the auxiliary, have on your community, of your younger members. If it hadn't been for your mentorship, your devotion, would the flagpole be in front of the Law Enforcement Center? That's a good question. But a young girl recognized the importance of the flag that we are about and made sure that it was there. You have 11 district presidents out of this unit. That's commendable. Diana, as your department president, you should be very proud of that. She's done a wonderful job. She's been a friend of our family for years, and we truly appreciated it. And as she was president, and I'm not sure if I was department chaplain at the time or what I was, but I truly appreciated working with you and getting to know you and to have the fun of the cowboy boots, the cowboy hat, and being called Tex by a very wonderful lady. Truly, truly amazing. The Freedom Rock. Congratulations, ladies, on that project. I know how that is because I'm the one that brought it to Lake Park, Iowa, and it is a chore getting things set up. Your dedication to the veterans is awesome. Not only to the veterans, but your dedication to the veterans and to your community. The involvement within your community is something that you people can be very, very proud of. You have done a wonderful job. I wish a lot of communities and some of the units and Legion members had the dedication to their community that you have. The only thing that hurts is when some of us give that dedication, we hardly get recognized, which we don't do for recognition, but they still don't know if the American Legion exists. And that kind of hurts when you try to do things. So I commend you for being out front, for doing the things for your community and for yourselves. But most of all, your dedication to these young people sitting right here, mentoring them to be an auxiliary member of the future and they become older and are able to do things and to lead. You make sure that they're there at the right place at the right time. You have a good 5th District commander that I've had the privilege of working with. Randy, I know he's not from this post, but he's done a wonderful job for the 5th District. For Darren, who hides behind a post, I can see you, buddy. It's been a privilege to have him serve as vice commander under me this year. I am a 2-year commander, and I hope nobody else has to do that again. You know, I end in July, and I might make the total miles in 2 years that I should have made in 1 year. But it's been a privilege to serve. And I think maybe perhaps it did bring me to the realization of how strong we, the veterans of the American Legion and the auxiliary members are. I had to come up with another slogan. I mean, the gentleman back there in that blue Air Force shirt, we're the best, buddy. You know, when you guys were down here sweating, we were up above where we were cool, but we were watching over you. So we were there. But my slogan last year was onward and upward, because that's the way I feel we are. This year I decided I need a new slogan, and I talked to Adjutant John, and he said, really, you do? And so he and I talked, and he said, well, you know what I thought? How about the phoenix, the symbol phoenix? I thought of the Phoenix Suns, and I don't like NBA professional basketball. I thought of Phoenix, Arizona, and I thought, what does that have to do with the American Legion? So I went home and looked it up as I got to get computer smart a little more, and found out what the phoenix means. And it means it dies within itself, and then it arises again from its own ashes to rise stronger and wiser. And I truly believe the American Legion family has grown this year out of the ashes of COVID to rise up, to be stronger and wiser. And with that, I say thank you for the honor to be here to speak to you people today. It's truly a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. Okay, I have to apologize because I just realized that I forgot to properly recognize Kelly and the commander with my bell. So, Nicole, if you have some words. Randy?
Please be seated. Great. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to be back home in Iowa, and it's wonderful to finally make it to the 5th District in Oskaloosa. When you have an opportunity to become the national president, it's a 4-year journey, which means 4 years starts that clock ticking, but it's probably been at least 10 years of serving at the national organization. And what I'd like to do, as Diana said, kind of back to the future, is help you understand what we as a national organization can help you do at a district and unit level. So I gave each one of you a pin when you came in, and in that pin, if you look at that lapel pin, if you can see it on your collar, or if it's right there in front of you, 100 years ago, which now is really almost 102 years ago because of COVID, our organization was formed because of the poppy. World War I, the poppy fields. That is why we are now celebrating our century of service, a whole century later. And for myself, I was talking to the new junior members before we had our luncheon, and I asked them, "You're all new members?" And they all shook their heads. And I said, "Well, I became a member when I was 4 years old." And 4 years old, and it's because of the poppy that I'm standing here today to talk to you. And that's because I saw people in my town, which isn't that far away, it's in Gladbrook, a town of 9, giving away the poppy for Memorial Day. And I didn't know what that meant. I have to admit, I didn't even know that it wasn't real. I just saw it was a pretty little red flower. And so we found out at that point that my grandpa, who served in World War II in the United States Navy Central Pacific Theater, would be the veteran whose service I would honor by becoming a member of the Junior Auxiliary. And I know Oskaloosa, we have good times, we've had our ups and downs in our unit, and now you're back on the rise. You're well beyond a phoenix. You have risen, and you have junior members. Not every unit across the nation has that. Now, I'm going to brag just a little bit about Iowa, because obviously being born and raised here, my town of 900 has 264 members. And I know Oskaloosa is a little bit bigger because when I drove in, I saw more than one Casey's. I saw a McDonald's. I saw a whole bunch of stoplights. And of course, I hit the bakery to take something home. But realizing that it's all about giving back. And Department President Kelly and I had an opportunity to talk with one of your media outlets before. And the question is, why do you do what you do? And it's all about your heartstrings. What makes you happy? What makes you want to give things back? If you tell me this is a 4-letter word called work, we got to have a conversation, because there's a whole lot of other places you could work and donate your time and your dedication. And so on that poppy, I knew right away when I was asked to become national president, the poppy would be the center of this lapel pin. Now, how many people like to watch fireworks? Right? I know I do. Yeah, okay, our little vocalist, she's nodding and smiling. Realizing that fireworks, if you think about it, centuries ago, Chinese figured out a way to light a fire on the ground and to turn it into something so beautiful way up in the sky for us all to enjoy. Now, I have to admit, I know and I'm sure many of you would agree with me that there's been a point in time in your life, maybe you were younger, said ooh or ah when you saw fireworks. Fireworks are mesmerizing. There are 2 cartoons that I love to read if I get a chance to actually hold a newspaper, which doesn't happen that often. Family Circus and Dennis the Menace. Because the bottom line, they do exactly what you just did. They make me laugh. They kind of put things in perspective. No matter what we're going through in the world, you can always rely on Dennis or Billy to give you hope, or Dolly at the end of the day. So when I was planning to go in as national president, which as the commander said was theoretically going to be 1 year, and now we're into 2 years, that on the 4th of July I was drafting what my remarks were going to be for my installation in Indianapolis that next month. And the 4th of July cartoon of the Family Circus was the entire family sitting on a hill watching the fireworks. And Billy, you could see him tugging on his dad's shirt sleeve and said, "Dad, can't we just DVR this?" So you could see it whenever you wanted to. And so for me, you have a lapel pin that's got the auxiliary emblem on it. I know at the end of a term you usually put them away. Maybe they go in a drawer, and I understand that. But maybe this is one that you could use as a conversation starter about who we are, what we do, why it matters to Oskaloosa, Iowa, why the Freedom Rock is important, why I know when I leave town I'm going to head east. I think on 92 is what I just heard, so I can look at the Freedom Rock. Because it makes a difference. I know my grandpa passed away when I was 10. I saw my parents do CPR on him. I didn't know his story in the Navy. I had to read about it in scrapbooks. Thank goodness my aunt took scrapbook pictures. And there's a picture. And I know many of you, since Oskaloosa, you have a National Guard that's been deployed more than once. There's a picture of my grandpa at 26, standing outside of a restaurant in Japan with a menu he couldn't read. And the newspaper clipping said, "Can you help this sailor?" And I thought, wow, we're pretty privileged in this country to know that someone is willing to raise their right hand, not during draft, now, and go and take care of us and protect us, and are willing to pass away for me if that's what it takes. So the least I can do is be in Oskaloosa, Iowa, to say thank you. And to thank you to your veterans. I asked Kathy if you have any male auxiliary members. You don't, but I don't say that's just not yet, because I'm sure you will at some point in time. We have over 868 across the nation now. that are finding a way to honor their military spouse's service to our country. What better way than to say thank you? And for me to say thank you to you, I brought along a little traveling companion. His name is Cornelius. Cornelius T, meaning tasty sweet corn. He was given to me by Iowa as a traveling companion because as national president, you travel over 300 days out of the year. So if we can imagine the year started and there was no such thing as COVID, word pandemic. I'm a nurse and a hospital CEO, so I knew what those words meant, but never would I have thought something would impact us in our lifetime. So Cornelius has been my traveling companion. So those of you in school or maybe a grandchild have heard of Flat Stanley's. That's what Cornelius is. He goes everywhere. And so for me, he had to make sure that he made a stop here in Oskaloosa today as a memory to just say thank you once again. So last March, as we would say, the world kind of stopped, right? We didn't know what to do. Kelly talked about what are these. As a nurse, I wore a mask every day because I was a burn care nurse at the University of Iowa. So I knew what infection was, and I had heard of the word pandemic. I was actually in Washington, D.C., and then Kelly was with me, and then she came back to Iowa, and Ann was there, and then I headed on to New Jersey. And that weekend of March 16th and 15th, I couldn't get home from New Jersey. I was in the second hottest county in the country of COVID cases. Very weird feeling to know that I couldn't figure out how to get home. I was supposed to be going to California the next morning. Well, when LAX, meaning the LA airport, closes, there's a problem. Then they tried to get me to Orlando, and that closed. They tried to fly me out of JFK in New York, and that closed. We know there's a problem when 3 of the biggest airports in the world are closed. So New Jersey took it upon themselves to figure out a way. They were going to drive me partway across the country to another department and somebody else in another state to pick me up to get me home. We ultimately didn't have to do that. Somehow in the middle of the night, we found a flight that took me from Philadelphia to Charlotte, back to Des Moines. But I know we all have that sense of what's going on and why. Sometimes history repeats itself, and maybe we're not here to understand that. But our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, had a quote: "We live in the midst of alarms. Anxiety clouds the future. We expect a new disaster with each newspaper we read." He said that over 150 some years ago. Isn't that how we've been feeling the last few months, the last year, I should say? But to see you out today, to see your smiling faces, I started traveling again in August, which I've never been on a plane so sparse of people, me and 30 other people on a really big plane. And then I went to South Dakota, and I went to Ohio, and I went to Michigan, and then I had to be COVID tested to go to Alaska because that was the regulations. Every state's different. But I will tell you as a nurse, these things make a difference. And if you follow Facebook at all and you go out to American Legion Auxiliary National President, you will see me smiling very broadly because Wednesday I got my second COVID vaccine. And I volunteered that day to watch others who were able to get their vaccines as well. So we're getting there. We wouldn't have been sitting here a year ago because that was probably the plan, was our 100th birthday. So now we're 101. Legion's 102. I don't think they look too bad. Now I will say, Auxiliary, we look pretty darn good. I mean, come on, how many times do I get to wear a flapper hat and gloves? So what I want to do with you, if I have a couple minutes, is that okay? I thought we could play a little trivia today. How's that sound? Yeah. Oh, yeah, Zoa. All right, Zoa. Okay, so we heard the reason I'm standing here today is because of the poppy. You also heard Diana say that when I was 16 years old, I had the honor to be the National Junior President. So I'm the first person to ever have life come full circle 32 years later to now be representing, instead of just 117,000 members, over 600,000 members. So at that point a year ago, I had 73,000 airline miles booked in 6 months. As I said, 300 days a year of travel. I had 33 trips in, and I had 33 on the button more to go. and the world stopped. So I learned about a thing called Zoom. How many of you didn't know what Zoom was a year ago? Okay. I thought Zoom meant vroom vroom. So that was a new experience. I live on a farm. So we know connectivity on a farm is not like living in a city. So I had many times I would be in the middle of meetings and the screen would just go black. I was trying to get a budget approved and the screen went black. That's a problem. So, you figure out ways to adapt and overcome. You adapt and overcome, and that's what each one of you have done. So if we think back in history, when is there a time in our world that Times Square in New York City would shut down for a good reason? Never. Kathy says never. 9/11, a good reason. New Year's Eve, yep, every year, New Year's Eve, except for this last year, it was really scaled back. How about an 18-hour imagine 18 hours that you there for a good reason? That the sirens were happy sirens, they weren't scary sirens. We talked about the poppy. How many poppies do you think our organization gives out across the country every year? You give them out in Oskaloosa, I'm sure? Mm-hmm. Do you do Memorial Day, 4th of July, Veterans Day, a little bit of everything? Memorial Day, that's what Glabrook does. Last year I did a video presentation because we couldn't have a public event. So in our country, every year, we give out about 3.6 million poppies. That's a lot, people. Can you imagine making 3.6 million poppies? So when I was little, my great-uncle and my great-aunt lived in the Iowa Veterans Home. And he was a poppy maker. He made thousands and thousands of poppies. And back then, only veterans made poppies. That was a sacred duty. I would have never thought to ask Uncle Duff if I could learn to make a poppy, because that wasn't what you do. But now we have so few veterans that can make the poppies that we have to step up to the plate and we have to help them. When is America's patriotism the highest? When do you think people really rally and put the flag out or the yellow ribbon? When do you think that happens? Veterans Day. 4th of July. We talked about Memorial Day. Flag Day. How about when we're at war? When we are truly at war. I was just in Alabama last month and I saw a yellow ribbon tied around a tree. I haven't seen one of those in a really long time. Well, I mentioned we hand out about 3.6 million poppies. 1946, we gave out 24 million poppies. Can you imagine 24 million poppies? What a beautiful sea that would be of red to represent that poppy field on that pin I gave you. That's what dedication, that's what commitment, that's what your heart and your head mean together for this organization, for those that came before us. We have to continue to tell those stories. I said to you, I didn't know my grandpa's story. I wish I did. I know a little bit about my uncle's story, who served in the Army in Korea. And now I know a lot about my uncle, my cousin, who is an admiral in the Coast Guard, who's serving right now. But when you look at each one of your relatives, community members that aren't members of the American Legion family, I ask you to go back and look into your family history. There may be a way that you can become a part of this family. We are 3 million strong across the world. We have a voice. During a pandemic, I actually was in Washington, D.C., just in March, the day that the world was supposed to stop again on March 4th, the day we were going to have another Capitol attack. And our national commander, he testified in front of Congress. That says something in the middle of a pandemic. 2 of Iowa's past national presidents served in times that are a whole lot worse than I'm serving in right now. One of our presidents, Opal Glenn, now her was Opal Glenn Haynes, she served during Vietnam. She flew on a plane into Saigon 6 hours after a battle had ensued on that runway into burning debris and wreckage. and then a past national president who's not very far from Oskaloosa by Shellsburg, where Kelly and I are from in the 3rd District, Sherry McLaughlin. She served during 9/11. She was in D.C. and couldn't get home. So you imagine how I felt when I couldn't get home. I was looking up to the heavens and say, Sherry, how am I going to get home? You figured out a way. They rented a car and drove home from Washington, D.C. Well, that was going to be plan C. I think we were up to that next morning. So I'm thinking if we have 5 national presidents, I'm the 5th, and one can handle Vietnam, one can handle a terrorist attack, I think I can handle a bug and a virus. And that's because of all of you. And so I want to tell you, you have the 100th edition magazine over here. And there is a girl on this magazine that looks a lot like the girl standing in front of you here today. It's a really little picture when she was 16 years old. And I would hope that maybe one of these juniors over here will be the next national president the page before. This is a story that I shared with you today. And if you would like, I would be honored to autograph these magazines for you, that you have them for your unit and to give to your members. Because, again, we have to tell our story. So I brought with me a couple things today. I have a 1943 poppy. That was when my grandpa served. One of my unit members, she was cleaning out her mother's home to move her into an assisted living and knew that I would want to have this. So at first, of course, I didn't laminate it, but we got lots of little sticky fingers and got lots of cake because we're celebrating our 100th birthday, so it got lots of frosting. So I decided I better laminate it, or I didn't think it would make it 1 year, let alone now 2 years. And then second, I have to share with you today is an original 1920 auxiliary pin. It is on loan to me from Jackie Tyne in the 1st District. It's from one of their unit members. She asks me every time I see her, do you still have that pin? Honey, it has traveled how many hundreds of thousands of miles by now? And all I say at every opportunity I get is, I will have these here to show you, but they just don't stay in Oskaloosa when I leave today. Fair enough? And I want to say thank you again to everything you're doing. It is incredible. Thank you for the beautiful lunch, everyone. But more importantly, it takes creativity, it takes resiliency, and a lot of resolve to do something 1 year, to do it 2 years, to do it 3, 4, 5 years. And that's because of your love for the veterans in our organization. So Kathy, Diana, and Kim, if you will come here, please. I want to give you, as national president, we get to have a few little things to take along with us when we travel. So I would like to present to each one of you one of my engraved National President ink pens.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you
Thank
go.
you very much.
Thank you. And can we get a picture? Is that right, Deb? Here we go, ladies. Okay.
Want this down?
There we go. And thank you again for having me.
You're
in
welcome. Thank you
Oskaloosa.
so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming. Such a great honor.
You know, we commented about changes and everything. So when we first started this out this year, we were going to have a high noon tea.
Yes,
Well,
I remember
a lot
that.
of people don't know what a high noon tea was. So in the process, one of our new members, which is my sister,
Okay.
over in Illinois, found a teapot, and she made us a high noon tea pot.
I love tea. I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a
Well,
tea drinker. So.
You can take the flowers out, and you can have your teapot.
Well, we might leave the flowers in.
Okay, whatever. So this is from one of our new members.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Of course, we have a basket for you,
Yes, and
which includes your bed for Cornelius.
And so Cornelius, he travels, and his family, sometimes people give him different things to make sure that, he's comfortable. So now it's my understanding that Cornelius actually has his own corn bed. So there we go. He'll sleep tightly tonight at home before we get on the road tomorrow. Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
White chocolate and wine?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Moscato was your favorite.
Yes.
That's from a local winery, and
Oh,
that's
wonderful.
what they said you would enjoy.
Oh,
So
most
I hope
definitely.
it's good.
We will leave him there, and thank
Okay.
you again, and I'm enjoying your program so much.
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me.
It's an honor to have you here. Okay, so now we're going to proceed with the recognition of our 50-year members and initiation of new members. So if you want to stay, we would love to have you stay, but if you want to leave at this time, you may do that also as well. So Diana, you want to come on up?